Good morning, good afternoon, guys, and welcome back to another Geek Tavern. As always, it's me, Shawn, and I'm joined by Mike,
Hello.
and we're missing.
Oh, wait. Where the hell's
somebody.
Aaron?
I don't know where.
Sorry, guys. It took me a while to get the shit. You have no idea what I had to go through.
What the hell do you have?
A little bit of everything. It's
Journal or
that. You know what the hell that is.
It seems really from the,
yeah, this is
the place that's far, far away.
stuff.
Here they are. Here you go.
Ah,
So I have good news and bad news. I have 4 DVDs, but apparently the fourth one was destroyed.
Oh.
So I just have the special features.
I see.
I guess they wanted no trace of that one.
No, leave no trace.
it has been deleted.
But they did give me this. I don't know if that has any significance or not.
Well,
Suppose we could put that away.
yeah, that's
We don't need that.
a little unrelated, I'd say.
That's a story for another time.
Yes, exactly.
You're right.
Story for another time.
Did I miss anything?
Not yet.
I think you're right on time now.
Oh. Great. I feel like shit.
I don't know why you got to cut these things so damn close.
Well, there were snakes, rats, a lot of bugs. Whew. Okay. All right. That's the last time I picked these movies.
Well, as you can see, we're here to talk about the Indiana Jones collection.
Anthology.
Yes. As it were.
And boy, did we collect.
Recommended to us by the man himself.
By me.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah. So I guess we should just start from the top.
Yeah. So this is a series of movies that are very near and dear to me. I grew up watching these along with Star Wars. It's brought to us by the creator of Star Wars and Steven Spielberg. So fun fact about the series is George Lucas and Steven Spielberg wanted to create like a type of James Bond type character because Steven always wanted to direct a James Bond movie, but he never got the opportunity to. So they wanted to make a character similar to that. George wanted to make kind of like a Western serial type of movie. So they were on vacation one year and they came up with the character Indiana Jones. Indiana is actually named after George Lucas's dog, who's a husky, who, if I'm not mistaken, is the husky in The Last Crusade that we see at the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
And coincidentally, Indiana Jones takes his name after the dog,
Right.
which it's not actually his real name.
Right.
We'll get to that though. So yeah, this is a set of 4 movies, which I do not have the 4th one. I do have it, I just didn't bring it. But yeah, it was a trilogy in the 80s, and then they did a 4th one in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, it's like 2008.
Yeah. Which didn't do great.
2007 maybe.
Yes.
I thought it was 9, but
No, it's definitely 7 or 8.
It's
Okay.
somewhere. I think it's 8.
Yeah.
I think it's
I
8.
think it's
I
8.
think it was like May 22nd, 2008. Because we got a new water heater that day. I remember that. Because they wrote it on it. So like I always remembered that date. Because I was like so excited to see that movie. And
That's-
then it was
that's really
not
funny.
as great as I had anticipated. I loved it when it came
still
out.
like it.
But no, I still like it too.
I like it.
But Indiana Jones is an archaeologist and a professor at a university who in his spare time hunts these artifacts or gets contracted kind of to hunt these artifacts or just ends up getting swept up into some crazy happenstance that leads him on an adventure with a great cast of characters that ultimately he comes out the hero or not. Sometimes, I mean, that's the nice thing about Indiana Jones is he's not a superhero. He is just an ordinary guy who gets the shit kicked out of him a lot, but still always comes out on top. So, he's a very cool. He is a very James Bond like character. He's not as like skilled as James Bond is,
Right.
but he gets by with what he can.
Nor has the gadgets, but
yeah, he doesn't have the gadgets. He does have some trademark things though: his leather jacket, his fedora, his bullwhip, and his revolver. Which he doesn't use the revolver all too much.
No, not really.
He more relies on hand-to-hand combat.
Mm-hmm.
I think he gets more pleasure out of beating the shit out of
Nazis. I think
Nazis.
he was definitely shot at more than he ever
Oh,
shot.
yeah. and that's the thing, too. He gets shot. Like, he's a character who actually, like, gets shot and, like, has injuries.
Right.
So, that's a nice... I think that's why people, like, relate more to him, because he is just a dude who's out just trying to fight bad guys. And it's not even, like... That's just who he is, but he comes across like so gruff that like you wouldn't expect him just like go out of his way to do this. Like he's got two personalities: the one he puts on at the university, and then the one where he's an adventurer.
I was gonna say
like when he puts on the hat, he becomes a different person.
Yeah. It's very night and day.
Yeah.
Other than the archaeology.
Yeah.
Like part of it.
So do we want to go in release order or chronological order? Because this is kind of a Star Wars. There's a prequel. This was like the first prequel. I think it actually was the first prequel to ever be made. Yeah.
I don't know about that, but it is certainly an early prequel.
Yeah.
Because the second movie takes place before everything else.
The first one.
I'd say we go from release date.
Release date. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll start with.
I mean, how?
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We'll start with Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was the first one. Which that's another thing that it's kind of the Star Wars-esque thing is it was originally called Raiders of the Lost Ark. It wasn't called Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. So it's like Star Wars was just called Star Wars,
right?
And Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, like
wasn't until the prequels.
Wasn't until the prequels that they just started calling them Star Wars: A New Hope.
Right.
Episode.
Episode. And in fact, A New Hope wasn't even the name of Star Wars when it came out. It was just Star Wars.
It was just Star Wars.
So we'll talk about Raiders of the Lost Ark. The first movie starts off in a jungle where Indy has two guides, one played by Alfred Molina, who we know better as Doc Ock, and I don't know who the other guy is.
I don't know.
But he gets an idol that he's been tracking for so many years, and that's where the iconic boulder scene happens. And he ends up getting it confiscated from him by his nemesis, Renee Belloc, who is another archaeologist who is a complete asshole, and who will kill anybody who stands in his way of getting the artifact. And then, so Indy loses that, goes back to university, tells Marcus Brody, who is he like the chancellor of the university?
Yeah.
He's also his friend.
Yeah.
Tells him that he had it, lost it, and then there are two men from the U.S. military who come to talk with Indy and Marcus regarding a transmission that they intercepted from the Nazis, who were currently at that time, and this is fact, that because the Nazis were actually digging for, like, they were looking for occult, like, items.
Mm-hmm.
They were looking for religious artifacts that could bring them power, because Hitler was actually obsessed with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some fact that this is based in. So they find out that they're looking for the Lost Ark of the Covenant. So we get a little bit of exposition on what the Ark of the Covenant is, its power that has been
it's supposed to be the thing that holds the Ten Commandments.
Yes, the remainder of the Ten Commandments. And they find out that they're looking for that. So they ask Indiana if he will find, because the person who the Nazis are looking for is his old mentor, Abner Ravenwood. So the Nazis know that he has the headpiece of the Staff of Ra, which they have to take to a map room, which we find out in the movie later. But it has to be put in a certain spot in the map room, so a beam of light shows them where the Well of the Soul is, which is where the Ark is buried. So we fast forward. Indy takes the job to go find the headpiece. He finds Abner's daughter, finds out Abner's dead. She has the headpiece, so they go to Cairo. and they encounter some Nazis before they end up going to Cairo, and the bar that she's working at gets burned down because of them. And so they go to Cairo, they end up finding the Ark, and the Nazis take it, and we basically have a whole chase scene that happens, but Indy escapes with the Ark. They go to they put it on a boat, and then the Nazis have a U-boat that boards them. They take the Ark, they tell them Indiana Jones is dead. He boards the U-boat and rides it to where they're taking the Ark. And he gets captured. He and Marion are held prisoner while the Nazis open the Ark, and Renee is the one who opens the Ark. And it kills everybody there.
Yeah, everybody
except
that
for Indy and
That
Marion.
looks at her.
yeah, everybody that is like trying to look upon
Right.
the
Yeah.
Ten Commandments, essentially.
Yeah, gets murdered horribly.
Yeah, their face melts and heads explode.
Yeah,
All
heads
kinds of
explode.
shit.
Like they get all the like oxygen and shit like sucked out of them.
Mhm.
And then most of them die by lightning out of like the heart of the Ark comes out and like shoots lightning through all the Nazis and everything. And
It's
then,
secretly holding the Emperor.
yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's just that scene from Rise of Skywalker where he does the big bass blast.
That happens inside.
So Indy gives the Ark back to the U.S. military guys who tell him that they're going to take care of it, and it ends up being put in the iconic warehouse filled with a shit ton of other crates.
Everything.
Everything that has ever been found just gets tucked away. Yeah, and there's a fun plot hole that people point out about this that I don't agree with, and I'll get your guys' opinion on it. That Indiana Jones is not necessary to the story.
Essentially, no.
Essentially, no, but I disagree with it. While I think, because somebody brought up, they said, well, the Nazis would have found it anyway. Maybe after like a couple weeks of trying to figure out where they screwed up. But Indy's the one who finds it because Tote, the Nazi who they fight in Marion's bar, the only reason that they have a headpiece is because the table that she hung the thing on falls over. They use it as like a shield, and it's in the fire. So he picks it up, and it burns into his hand, but they only have one side of it. So we find out that the old shaman that Sala takes Indy to tells him like the length and everything of the staff that it needs to be put on, but on the other side it tells them to subtract like a foot off of it. So it showed them the wrong place to dig, which is why they never found it. But Indy's the one who found it, and if he hadn't have found it and the Nazis hadn't watched them digging it up, then I don't know if they would have found it at the right time.
Right.
It may have taken them like years to find it, but ultimately they still would have died. The Nazis still would have died.
Oh, yeah.
They would have died because of their hubris.
Yeah.
This is the first time you've seen the movie, Mike.
Yes.
So, I want to know your opinion on it because of I gotta say I think that this is like the best character introduction
Oh,
to
absolutely.
like any character.
Yeah.
Because
Any in cinematic history.
yeah, because we just start with like the score, and then you see he cuts away a branch or whatever, and you just see a silhouette there.
Yeah, all you see is the hat and the jacket, and like they never show you him until the guy pulls the gun on him.
Right.
Because he's like piecing together the map, and he hears the hammer cock on the gun. And all we see is his hand come back, and he throws the whip and pulls the gun out of his hand. And then, like, it's like the perfect shot ever. Like, you don't see him, and out of the shadows, the light hits him, and like it's great.
Yeah, I mean, cinematically, that's a great shot. I guess I'll kind of spoilers for ahead in the rest of the movies, but like, I gotta be honest, like, the more they went on, the more I liked them.
Yeah.
So like story-wise, I thought it just got better and better. So like, out of the first three, this is kind of the lowest one for me. Like, I didn't really care about the Covenant. Like,
Yeah.
just a story from a story stand base. I don't know. It wasn't as good as the next two to me. we'll
I
get to the
think you're
fourth one.
kind
when
of
we get
on the
there.
same page with Shawn and I, because we've talked about.
I appreciate it for what it was.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure, like, you know, just when I did it as a lump sum, it's just I could differentiate, and be like, oh, that one wasn't as good as these other two.
Yeah.
And, so I don't want to say it was a bad movie, but like comparison.
No, I totally agree.
But I mean, I liked it. I like the character.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll revisit these as much as something like Star Wars or something, but I am very glad that you guys made me finally watch these.
No. If it wasn't here, we would have made you watch it at another.
Yeah. But I mean, the first one's good. And we'll talk about the other ones in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's. I mean, we probably don't even have to say much because that's pretty much our thoughts on it too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a great movie, but
Right.
like revisiting them now, like my opinions change a little bit on the movies. So I'll just say this much: I always held the second one as my favorite for like a long time, but going back and rewatching them, my opinions might be slowly changing. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm in the same camp as you. The Raiders has always been kind of the lowest one for me.
Right.
Like, not saying it's a bad movie by any means. It's still great. It's always been like, you know, I would rather go back and watch the second or third one before I would go back and watch the first one if I were to revisit any of them. But it has a bunch of great shit in it. Like, obviously the iconic boulder scene, where even to this day they're doing reenactments of it at Disney.
Oh yeah, the flying wing. That's another iconic scene of the flying wing blowing up.
Yeah.
Which, little nod to when we did our Conan the Barbarian and Destroyer. The guy, the mirror monster, like the wizard who was like controlling the mirror monster, is the mechanic who Indy fights. The big wrestler Pat Roach, who.
Okay.
We'll talk about his other roles in this trilogy.
He's in every single one except for the fourth one.
He was
obviously.
dead. Yeah, he was dead at that point.
Obviously, like Indy, like switching out the fertility idol with a sandbag. That's a huge pop culture thing.
Yeah.
And then
it's so beautifully shot. That set is just amazingly done.
Well, that's the thing that, like, I like everything that they're doing with the volume, which we can talk about more with another thing we're doing. But like practical sets, they stand out so much when you watch movies like this. You know, like
because there was just so much that went on to it back in the.
And there's so much, detail to it. Like so much put into the detail.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know, it's just not the same with CGI or green screen or whatever it would be.
Despite how convincing it might be.
Yeah, like it can be convincing, but at the same time, it still looks fake.
Yeah.
Like sometimes this is more convincing.
Oh yeah.
Because it's actually
definitely
there.
Yeah. And obviously the iconic scene of which everybody knows the story behind of the dude who's like flourishing with his sword or whatever, and Indy just goes and kills him, and he's like, I don't have time for this, and moves on.
So I don't know. Do you know the story behind that?
No.
So when they shot that movie, they were in, I want to say it was
Tanzania.
Tanzania. And they were all eating the food there, except for George and Steven, who were eating canned food that they had imported from the UK. Every single one of the cast and crew got like food poisoning, including Harrison Ford. That whole scene, Indy was supposed to sword fight that guy.
Oh.
He was so sick, they got onto set, and he's just like sitting there, and he does like the whole sword thing, and he just looks at Steven and he goes, "Can I just shoot him?" And Steven's like, "Yeah, we'll do a take like that." And he did it, and he just went, "That's it." He's like, "Yeah, we're done."
Because it's obviously filmed that way out of necessity because everybody was ill, but it informs it informs Indiana Jones as a character, because that's something that Indiana Jones would do. He's just like, I have bigger and more important things to do. I don't have time to fight you in the middle of Cairo. I'm just gonna shoot this guy and get on with my day. Like that is one of the character defining moments in the film, and it just was like brought on by circumstance, which I think is really great.
That's great.
Another fun fact about that is John Rhys Davies actually like shit himself in the middle of a take one time, and he was like, Like he in an interview that it was on the special features he was talking about. He's like, yeah, he's like that happened, and it was like in front of a couple hundred people, and I was like, I don't even care. Like he was so sick. He's like, no. He's like, I really don't care.
A true actor.
Yeah.
True actor would have continued to
Continue
see.
Just like watching around
guy.
get so pants.
Guys, I need to go. Oh.
Yeah, a true actor Harrison Ford would have continued while filling his pants. No. Yeah.
Especially now in his old age.
Bring on the depends.
Yeah, exactly. But Marion is a great character too. She adds a lot to Indy as a character, and it's kind of funny and fucked up that she's like not in the second or third movie, only to be brought back in the fourth installment. Mm-hmm. And we'll see. I don't know if she's supposed to be in the fifth one. I don't even know when the fifth one's supposed to be coming out, honestly. But
next year, I think.
Yeah, sometime next year when he goes back to the past or whatever. He goes to the future or whatever.
We'll talk about that after.
But yeah, I don't know if there's much else to say to it. I mean, it's really like kind of like what Star Wars was to science fiction. It's kind of what Indiana Jones was to adventure
and like type of westerny type of.
Especially like back in the 70s and 80s, you know, it was kind of like a genre-defining film to come out, only to be built upon with the subsequent films and everything.
One thing after watching Moon Knight recently, I was talking to Shawn about this a little bit, like the Mark and Layla thing. They're kind of like Indy and Marion. Like her dad was an archaeologist that he ran around with, and then ended up falling in love with her, and they got married and kind of like proceed on adventures and stuff like that. So I thought that was I wondered if that was intentional. Probably.
Yeah.
Because Moon Knight kind of is Indiana Jones with superpowers.
He is very much Indiana Jones with superpowers. Are we going to rate them individually as we go on, or wait till the end to rate everything at once? We can have that discussion now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's rate it at the end.
Okay. Because I think we're about finished with Raiders, and we can move on to Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll take Temple of Doom. So this one is, as we stated earlier, a prequel. I don't know how much.
1932?
Yeah, I think? Like...
Because the first one takes place in 1936.
It's like it can't be 10 years.
That's
right?
like 4 years.
Yeah, like 4 years beforehand. So it's 4 years before the events of Raiders. Indy is in Japan.
Shanghai.
Yeah, he's in Shanghai. The opening of the film is him like dealing with these people. He's trying to make a deal. They end up poisoning him, and is Wendy like with him? Willie. Yeah, Willie. Sorry. Is Willie like with him? Like traveling there with him, or is it?
No.
Yeah.
Lao She is like her manager.
Yeah.
A quick little nod. They're in Club Obi-Wan.
I did pick up on that.
Yep. Which is, of course, a nod to Star
But yeah, so they poison... I think they poison both him and Willie.
No, just him.
Okay, yeah.
Just him.
And they're like, well, you're going to die anyway, so just give us the diamond or whatever. And
they play him.
Yeah. And so, this whole action scene ensues. Indy escapes with Willie because she's an American in Shanghai, and she's kind of like guilty by association, just Indy being there.
Right. Oh, and she has the antidote too.
Yeah, she has the antidote. And then they escape with Indy's fun little buddy, Short Round, that is just like there.
Let's just point out, is never seen or heard from again.
Exactly. He's just like completely ignored from like in the continuity from then on. But they escape. Dan Aykroyd puts him on a plane, and
did you catch him?
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't know that until like the most recent rewatch.
Really?
We were watching it, and they just like pass him. I was like, "That's Dan Aykroyd," and Aaron's like, "No, it isn't." And I was like, "Fucking look at him!"
Maybe I didn't catch it.
I looked it up, and you can hear the voice. They don't really show his face except for one shot, and he has like a big mustache.
Well, I didn't.
But you can hear it in the voice. And like when I looked at him, I was like, "That is Dan Aykroyd." So.
But yeah, so they get put on a plane, and they're flying back to America, or at least a safe zone. Yeah. And the plane is sabotaged
Hmm.
at that point.
Like the
I have
guy
to,
owns the air
Yeah.
freight. The guy who poisoned him owns the
Yeah.
air.
Right.
I have to bring this up now. This is the campiest out of all of the trilogy.
Oh, absolutely.
Trilogy, at least. We will speak on the fourth one whenever we get there. But this is definitely the campiest because the plane is sabotaged. The pilots literally bail out with the parachutes, and Indy, Willie, and Short Round have to survive by opening up a raft and falling.
Free falling.
Yeah, free falling out of an
Mountain.
airplane onto a mountain, and then
Sledding their way down.
sledding down the mountain to so they make it down.
I was like,
This
well,
is the movie that like Mythbusters tested everything in
Yeah.
it, like to see like if that shit would work or not.
And
Fun fact, it doesn't.
yeah. So Willie is an interesting contrast to Marion, who is like you say, an archaeologist's daughter. She's like totally in the ropes and everything. And Willie in this movie is the fish out of water character. We're supposed to be like the audience insert because Indy's like, oh, you have to go along with their cultures, and Short Round is, I guess also along with that.
They're
It's
eating
just
like bugs and
yeah.
stuff like that. And they're
But,
just going along
Yeah,
with it.
yeah. They're like, you have to like don't insult anybody, go along with everything. And Willie's just like eating monkey brains and being like, "Ah!" How a normal person would be.
yeah.
But
Cutting open the snake surprise and all the eels come out.
but yeah, so they trek their way to
Pankot Palace.
Panko
But
Palace.
they're heading to Delhi.
Yeah,
Is where they were. I guess that's where they were headed originally, and then their plane crashed.
and they uncover insidious plot that a village had their holy relics stolen from them in order to, I don't even know, do some ritual.
There's like 5 stones that, if all brought together, it's like the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
If all brought together, they can conjure Kali, the great god Kali, to like come forth and like destroy the world or whatever. So they're like underneath the palace, they're mining for all 5 stones, and they found 3 out of the 5. So they're still digging for the 2.
Yeah, and they stole some from
Yeah, the one village that they end up at after they crash had the 1 stone. So they stole it from them, and their whole village is like dying.
Yeah, it was like a source of vitality for the village. So,
And they took all the kids
yeah.
and used them as slave labor.
So Indy is under the ruse of just being like a diplomat archaeologist, essentially.
Yeah.
Infiltrates the palace to try and find like where like the stones were taken
And the children.
and they uncover this plot that they're trying to summon Kali, and they fight and they recover the stones and the children, and yeah, that's
Save the day.
Indiana Jones does this thing,
Right.
and he saves the day.
My favorite scene is when, I think it's this movie. Now that's gonna happen a lot.
That's all right. Because you watched them all consecutively, didn't
Yeah,
you?
like-
yeah.
Like I took 4 days and each night I watched one, but this is the one because I think it was the little boy triggers
Oh,
A trap, and
the
then
room. Yeah.
Short Round.
Like that whole sequence.
That's a great sequence. That's probably the best part of the movie
Yeah, that's
because
one of the most.
Willie. So like Indy's afraid of snakes, which we glossed over from the first film.
Yeah.
Willie is like terrified of bugs.
Right.
So like, Short Round and Indy are
Which,
like,
fuck that room. I wouldn't go in that
Oh,
room.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Short Round and Indy are like in a room that is slowly like being crushed. And Willie is like in there, and Indy's like, "Help! We're like, help us!" And he's like, "I don't know what to do." And his face, "We are going to die." So she has to like reach in past a lever filled with like insects and bugs and shit, and she has to pull it.
Not just insects.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Spiders as well.
That whole corridor is just like filled with bugs.
Yeah.
And it's only like that 20 feet.
Yeah.
And it's all just everywhere. And she doesn't even realize it until she like lights the lantern. And
Yeah,
then
and
she's
it's
like, ah! Like it sees all of them.
She would have really hated what happened to what's his face, Alfred Molina in the first movie. With
Oh,
spiders.
all the tarantulas. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, Willie saves them, but her room starts to get crushed too, right? Isn't it?
No.
Oh, I thought that like after she relieved that, like her room started to crush.
No. Oh, no. She comes in through the door and then she drops the lantern and then her butt hits the same device to
Yeah.
start it back over again, and then Indy's like, no,
Oh, yeah,
like, and then they
'cause
all
they-
run
yeah.
out of the room.
Yeah. They're like, get up. And that's when they make it down into the mines and they see like the ritual that they take the still beating heart out of the one villager, and then they get found and captured.
And he's still alive, and
They like
send him.
they
to
send
hell?
him down. They send him down into the pit of lava. Like
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
it just
it's
lava?
literally
I
like
wasn't
a-
sure if it was lava or like an actual like portal thing. To
I think it's like a volcano.
okay,
Yeah,
that they-
it's just like a chamber of magma that they just
Yeah,
discovered.
and they burn that dude.
but like the closer you get, like you just catch on fire. Like
Oh,
you're
yeah.
not even like dead.
Oh yeah, like that guy. Like you see it too when he starts to go down towards it. Like he just like ignites.
Yeah.
and then it just right.
And
through.
I'll say this too: this is simultaneously the most campy movie, but also the most violent
Yeah.
out of all of
Oh
them.
yeah.
And it's funny because there was backlash after this movie was released because of how violent it was. People were like shitting on Steven Spielberg, kind of similar to how people shat on John Carpenter for the movies that he makes. But they're like, this is too violent, you know, this is not family friendly, kid unsafe or whatever. And because of that, Steven Spielberg had like a radical shift in the way that he made movies, where like you could kind of see it in the third one, and then every movie that he's made since then, it's like there's like hardly any violence in them.
Okay.
I mean, there's certainly violence in the third movie, but like nothing
But
compared to
not,
what's
but not people igniting.
Not ripping people, still beating
Yeah,
hearts out of their chest.
not nearly on the degree of ripping still beating hearts out of people, or even husks of human beings exploding because they open up the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say somewhat after the Grail or whatever, but even there, it's like it's quite mild compared to what's.
Well, and I think like he's benefited from that because like you look at, I mean, if you look at like Ready Player One, like there's some violence in that.
Sure, there's
Like
violence, but-
not even like I'm talking like real world violence, like them blowing up the stacks and killing like his aunt and uncle. Like,
yeah.
there's some fucked up shit. Like I think Steven is like, oh good, the times are different. People like the violence again. He's like, I'll just shoehorn a little in here. But
Yeah, Ready Player
I mean,
One.
correct me if I'm wrong though. Like you don't really see the violence though. Not to the level of.
Oh yeah.
No. Oh,
This-
no.
It's
yeah.
just like implied violence.
Right. Yeah.
But
Which,
yeah.
which I think is a totally different thing. Like.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Compared to this, yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of blood in Raiders.
Hmm.
A lot of blood.
So we can talk about the other scene where he's fighting
Pat Roach.
Pat Roach, yeah. The huge dude. They're on a mining conveyor belt, which is like crushing rocks or whatever. And they're, fighting. How does he die in the first one? Is it
The airplane propeller.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure if that was the
Because
first
it's
one or
like
the third one.
rotating on like one wheel and
Yeah.
it's like spinning and he's paying too close attention to Indy, like wanting to fight him, and Indy just like turns and covers his head and he turns
And that's
like it's
kind of a
like-
funny thing about it too, is Indy is not ever directly responsible for that, like the big muscle's death.
no.
It's always like by happen chance or an accident.
Mhm.
So in the first one, it's the
Yeah, even in the third one he's
Yeah.
not.
in the first one, it's the airplane propeller that kills him, and then in this one they're fighting, and the dude's like turban or whatever, like
Yeah,
a neck
yeah.
scarf, gets caught in the.
Oh yeah, that's right.
In the,
And he tries to save him.
Yeah, he even
He
tries to save
legitimately
him,
tries to save him.
and then he just like gets,
He gets crushed in like that wheel thing. Right?
yeah, the rock crusher.
Right.
Which,
that was pretty
I mean,
gnarly.
that says a lot about his character too.
Yeah.
Like he was about to try to save him. Like he was like yanking, trying to get, but his weight just like pulled him down in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a little fucked up.
It sucks. It sucks for that guy. I really like the minecart portion
Minecart
of
chase.
the because it's so campy. I keep saying it, but it's so ridiculous
Oh, yeah.
because they're like it's like racing minecarts. And they're like shooting at each other. Well, they're shooting at Indy and company, and they're just like lean this way, trying to like direct which way they're going.
You cannot tell me that this did not influence Donkey Kong Country.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
it had
Like,
to.
I'm like, shit, this is where they got it.
Yeah, it's so funny. They're just like, and then they get out, and they're like, and that's when the flood like comes
Yeah,
through.
yeah. So there's like that big ass water tower that they just collapse, so that it floods the tunnels
Mhm.
to hopefully kill Indy, which is kind of a stupid on Mola Ram's part because it's like, why would you do that? You're gonna lose those stones if
Yeah.
you flood that.
Yeah,
like,
you're fucking up your
Yeah.
entire base of operations.
yeah. So I mean, I guess that's just the hubris of the villain.
Right.
Oh,
Them not thinking it through, like, oh, I'm just gonna do this.
we forgot to mention, he was mind controlled before this, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Indy was under the spell of Kali because they made him drink the blood. Which is another very violent scene of Indiana Jones being whipped with his own bullwhip
Yeah.
in order, like, being whipped into submission to make him drink the blood.
Yeah. Steven Spielberg wasn't messing around with this one. He's like, the first one was good, but we're gonna make it even grittier. Yeah,
It's dark.
you don't see stuff like that
No.
really anymore. But yeah, so he was mind controlled. That he eventually got over it. I think
Fire is what
Yeah.
like triggers it, like, to break the spell. So Short Round burns him.
Yeah,
Like, because Indy's like at the ceremony and they're gonna sacrifice Willie, but they don't rip her heart out. Probably for just plot convenience.
yeah,
So Short Round has to like break the spell, so he like burns him with fire, and that works. Like that breaks it.
Yeah.
And Indy and him fight off everyone. Molaram escapes. They kill that dude because he like punches him, and he ends up like being crushed under the
Yeah.
wheel.
yeah.
And then, like, he crawls away, like, because I pointed this out when we watched it at Matt and Jess's, like, he crawls away, and then later on you just see him, like, just, like, face down. Like, you think he's alright, and then it cuts, and he's like, oh, no, he's dead.
Oh yeah, you got like,
Yeah.
impaled essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we find out that that's how like they're controlling people is like mind control,
Right.
and then yeah, they escape. I think Indy has the stones at this point. He has 3 stones.
Yeah, he packs them all
Yeah.
into his satchel.
And then they're escaping across the bridge, which is like the scene that I always remember whenever I was younger. They're escaping across the bridge, and Molaram is like, he cuts the rope?
No. So, like, Molaram, Indy's, like, trapped.
Yeah,
On the bridge.
that's right, yeah. Oh, that's right, yeah.
And because Willie and Short Round get across, but Molaram's already there. Indy's still catching up. They trap him on the bridge, and then he's like telling him, like, let him go and I'll give you the stones. And then Molaram's like, yeah, no. So Indy tells Short Round and Willie to like wrap their arm. Like he says it to Short Round in Chinese, so they don't understand what he's saying. So like he wraps his leg around like the rope. Short Round wraps himself up, and then he cuts the bridge to kill all the other guys by falling off and getting eaten by alligators, and then hopefully Molaram, but Molaram holds on, and then
Yeah,
they have their
they fight on the
on the
Oh, right.
on the bridge.
which is just a nerve wracking to think about that. It's like,
Well, yeah, it's
how
so
are you holding your
it's so
breath?
weird because Molaram has one of the stones, and then it just starts burning his hand.
Yeah, so it like burns. Like, I guess Indy's like doing like whatever, like what would you call it? Like he's like reciting some prayer, and the stones literally start burning out of his satchel. And then Molaram, like the first 2 fall out down into the river, and Molaram catches the third, and it starts burning his hand. And he lets go of the rope, and then he falls and like smashes his head off the rocks and gets eaten by alligators. And then, but it just so happens that stone that he was holding was the one that was from the village. So like when he drops that, Indy catches it and then climbs back up, and then they go back to the village, and the village is like all like green again and like regrown, and they bring all the children back.
What about the other 2 villages attached to the other 2?
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck those guys.
Hopefully they were just mined out of the mindset underneath the temple.
Yeah, so that's Temple of Doom, and then we just assume that Willie and Indy go on.
Yeah, because that's, I don't know, that's a because they like go to New York. I think they say they're gonna head back to America at least. Yeah, that's funny because like Willie and Indy are like, there's like, she's the love interest in this movie,
Right.
and then 4 years later, Marion is the love interest.
See, and I think that's kind of like a Bond type thing, where there's a different Bond girl for each movie, like, and that's where there's a different Indiana Jones girl in each movie.
Right.
And I mean, Bond does eventually settle down, so We see that later on
Mm-hmm.
in this franchise too.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's just funny because like after 4 years, you don't know any have no recollection or memory of Short Round or Willie. Like you just have no idea what happened to him.
When we watched them, Allison said to me, she's like, "Tell me Short Round doesn't die," and I looked it up, and I was like, "Short Round does not die." I was like, but apparently he just showed up in one of the comics and then just fucked off. Was never heard from again.
He's like, Indy, that shit was crazy. I'm not.
I'm not doing that again.
I'm not doing that again.
I'm a kid.
I watched how your old partner got shot in that bar. I'm not gonna end up like him. Yeah, because his partner Wuhan gets killed. There's a scene in that. Well, in that scene, there's a sequence where they're popping all these champagne bottles, and while they're doing that, Lao She's one son has a pistol concealed, and he shoots Wuhan in the chest while all that's going on, so nobody would notice the gunshot.
Mm.
So yeah, he just dies, and then that's when Indiana Jones takes that kebab and skewers his other son.
Yeah.
That's dark too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of dark shit in this one for sure.
But yeah, that. So one thing I was gonna mention there's another fun fact about that. The shaman of the village spoke no English whatsoever. Couldn't understand English, couldn't speak it. So the pauses that are happening when he's telling Indiana Jones what happened to their village is all Steven Spielberg is behind the camera saying his lines to him, and he's just repeating what he says. And so they cut out that part of Steven saying this to him, and then so his pauses aren't for dramatic effect. It's just he's waiting for Steven to give him the next line.
I mean, he did a remarkable job.
Oh no, he did a great job.
Being unable to speak English.
Yeah.
I mean, it's convincing me that he spoke English, so.
I was not aware.
Yeah. Yeah, he did not speak a lick of English.
That's pretty crazy.
So, but yeah, I mean, this is definitely one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, I like this a lot.
I'm in agreement with Shawn, and we'll get to that point to talk about why. But this was my favorite. And I don't even think I'm teetering anymore. I think that we'll get to which one is my favorite, but this is definitely my second favorite now.
I could probably guess.
It's Kingdom. It's Kingdom. I'll just say it right now. This is actually, like Shawn was talking about how dark this movie was. This was actually one of the movies that really springboarded the PG-13 movement because it almost got an R rating for how violent and dark it was. But they ended up giving them a PG rating. So
yeah, and then the fucking MSRP was like, we need something else. Yeah. There has to be something.
There's got to be a middle ground.
There has to be something between PG and R because this isn't cutting it.
It's like if they had given Jaws an R rating.
Yeah.
So did they retroactively go back and give it a PG-13?
When PG-13 happened, they went back and gave it a PG-13 rating.
So I was like, there's no way that they implemented that and didn't. Might have been a stupid question, but...
Yeah, they did. They retroactively gave it a PG-13. I was just thinking about this. Dan Aykroyd, this movie was 84, so Ghostbusters was 84 too. I'm wondering if they weren't shooting on the same back lot.
Maybe.
And then
they're like, hey Dan, want
a cameo and her in Temple of Doom? He's like, yeah.
So yeah, fuck it.
Sure. Yeah, I like that first one.
Yeah, I liked Raiders. Of course you like Raiders. There was ghosts in it.
Well, obviously, Dan Aykroyd was influenced by the Indiana Jones film. He has the
Crystal Skull vodka. Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
So.
Damn, aren't we Geek Tavern? Why didn't we just bring in that shit's strong. I would not recommend just sitting and sipping that.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's very good.
It's way too bitey.
Anyway.
Yeah.
We're out here to review Dan Aykroyd's Crystal Skull.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
There's no way I can do it as good as you did.
All right, go.
You want Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
I don't want anyone.
Wait till we do the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. Yeah, so Last Crusade takes place after the events of Raiders. I think it's 2 years after Raiders. Because
Yeah.
I think it's 1932, 1936, 1938.
Yeah, so like even before like World War II was happening, like that's like the
Yeah.
whole point. Is like
It's
the
1 year
Nazis.
before they march into...
Yeah, the Nazis. Like that's kind of like a backdrop to these movies, or at least the first and third movie. It's like the Nazis exist,
Are
like the Nazi
active.
Party
Yeah.
exists, but they haven't warred yet.
They haven't
they're
lost
like
They haven't
their shit
invaded
yet.
Yeah, they're
anywhere.
like
They're just
building-
building power.
yeah, they're building a power, but everybody knows. Well, at least
So they're not in the timeline. They're not to the point where they're like uber hated.
yeah. Well, yeah, Germany.
I mean, they're hated, obviously.
Germany hasn't invaded Poland at this point,
Right.
So like, they're just kind of like Hitler is essentially a dictator of Germany, kind of like, or at least he's like garnering that support.
Yeah.
And everybody, at least in America, they're like, yeah, that guy sucks.
You guys don't realize what he's doing.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is it's a strange bit to the plots of the first and third movie, where like there's one guy who's outsourced. He's not German. Neither of them are German. There's a Frenchman and he's American.
yeah,
Are basically sought out to find these artifacts for Hitler. And like, yeah, it's an interesting subplot to that,
yeah,
where Hitler's literally like getting in contact with these people, like, hey, go find this for me.
yeah.
And then he gives them like a Nazi platoon or whatever just to like ensure that it happens.
Yeah. So in this one, they're on the hunt for the Holy Grail, the fabled cup that Jesus drank from during the Last Supper.
And then his blood was caught during the crucifixion.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Which we get a little bit, and I guess like nobody really knew, aside from maybe if they said it in the trailers, and I've never watched the trailers for these movies, except for Raiders. I think I did watch Raiders. But like, I guess walking into this movie, you wouldn't know
Yeah.
what they're looking for until you go in and actually watch it. So the opening of this movie is a nice little tease with another religious artifact that young Indiana Jones, played by Joaquin Phoenix's late brother River Phoenix, finds, which is called the Cross of Coronado, and the gravedigger who he takes it from is who he basically models his entire look after, and gets his hat, his trademark hat.
Yeah.
So Indy has that whole thing where
He
he...
explains why he's afraid of snakes.
Yes. Oh yeah. The whole train, the circus train sequence with
Yeah.
all the zoo animals, and he falls down.
It's funny
into
because
the
at first he's
snake.
like, "Oh, it's just a snake," and then he like falls through the thing,
into the pit, of
and it's like a
snakes.
den of snakes, and he's just like
Yeah.
freaks
Yeah.
out.
So he ends up, he gets the cross. He loses the cross because the sheriff shows up, and the guy who was paying them to find it shows up, and he's like, "Nah, it's mine." And then later on, he finds the same guy, takes that cross back from him, and then his boat blows up, and he escapes with the cross.
Yeah.
Uh,
He encourages Indy though to like continue like
well,
his
the
architectural journey.
the grave digger.
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, he's like, you're not quite ready for it, but don't give up.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he gives him his hat, and he's like, "Yeah, go ahead, continue to fight, man, fight the good fight." And then he, so that guy dies, so he gets the cross back, and then gives it to the museum with Brody and all that, and then
Yeah,
he-
that's an iconic line that we skipped over. It belongs in a museum.
oh yeah, I feel... yeah. So he gets that cross, gives it to Brody, and then these men show up at Indy's office. Like he tries to, he tells his students when his office hours are, and then they all like bombard
Yeah,
him.
they try and get
So
him.
he escapes out the window, like out into the parking lot, and then these guys show up and like surround him, and then he ends up in this dude's study, and the guy walks in, who's General Veers from Empire Strikes Back,
Oh,
and
okay.
Maester Pycelle from Game of Thrones,
Yes.
Julian Glover, he plays Walter Donovan, who is Indy knows of him. He's like a very famous collector of like antiquities and like ancient artifacts. And he tells him that he's come into possession of a tablet that is partially revealing where the Holy Grail is. So he's like trying to convince Indy to like help him in this quest, and then he tells him that he should find his father because his father was obsessed with the Grail. And
That's like his life's mission.
Yeah, he's always drawing in his journal, like trying to figure out where it is. So he tells him, "You should find my father," and then he tells him that the person they were working with disappeared, and they have no idea where of his whereabouts or his notes or anything like that. So he tells him, go find my dad, and he says, "Your dad's the one who's missing." So of course Indy has no choice in the matter than to go find his father, who he and his father are very estranged at this point because Indy has father issues of you were obsessed with finding the Grail and you didn't give a shit about me. So they deal with that throughout the movie. It's a very good dynamic between father and son. So Indy goes on this quest. They find out where these markers are. Then they find out where his dad is because they find the journal. Or his dad mails him the journal.
Yeah.
To like continue the quest, and Indy brings it with him when they rescue him, and then he gets all pissed off that he has the journal because he's like, I didn't want the Nazis to get that, because they find out that Donovan is working with the Nazis, that he's the one, like he's in charge of finding the Grail, and that's why he was using them. And they leave Indy and his father to basically die, and the girl that they were working with, they find out she also is part of this Nazi. Elsa is part of this Nazi party.
Had a romantic relationship with both
of them
and Henry Jones.
That's actually one of my favorite lines, when they're both tied to the chairs, and Indy like leans over and he goes, "How did you know she was a Nazi?" Or they're not tied up yet, and he says, "How do you know she was a Nazi?" And Sean Connery just goes, she talks in her sleep, and then he just goes, like, he just like looks at him like, what? And then whenever Elsa's like telling Indy how wonderful it was and everything, and Sean Connery's like, well, thank you, it was wonderful. Like, and Indy like turns around, like glares at his dad.
Yeah.
Oh, so let's talk about that a little bit. Sean Connery plays Henry Jones Sr., which that's Indiana Jones' real name is Henry Jones. Actually, I found out what his middle name is. And it's... Hold on, because this is going to bother me if I don't pull it up. And I have it readily available, so...
I think I know what you were going to allude at anyway, but... Just like it's...
Henry Walton Jones.
Henry Walton Jones Jr. But, yes, Sean Connery.
So Sean Connery, who played the original James Bond... And that's why Steven Spielberg wanted him for that role, was so he could direct Sean Connery.
And it's funny because he's like, kind of like a timid old man.
Yeah.
He's like,
and
his son is like the kick-ass guy, and,
yeah.
And he's just like, I'm an archaeologist.
Yeah, he's an archaeologist, like, to a T.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where Indy is more of a hands-on type of archaeologist. His father is just kind of like the bookworm, not the field guy. So this is all new to drag his dad in on this adventure of like fighting the Nazis and all this. So Elsa has the journal now after they leave them to die and they burn down the castle, essentially. They leave them to die. She has the journal. They escape on a big motorcycle chase, which is a very cool action set piece. And his father convinces him to go to Berlin to get the journal back. So they go to Berlin to find Elsa, and Indy dresses up as a Nazi to go find her. And while there's this big book burning ceremony happening, like with Hitler just up on the podium and everything. And he gets the journal back, says his piece with Elsa, and leaves. And he, on his way out with his dad, they literally bump into Adolf Hitler, who is Admiral Ozzel from Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
And like he bumps into Hitler, and like he notices that he has the book in his hand, and he takes it and like signs his name on one of the pages.
Which is funny because it's like exactly what Hitler is looking for.
Yeah.
Like it's basically like the key to where, like the roadmap to where the Grail is, and he just like signs
the page he signed like had the Holy Grail on it.
Yeah, the page that he signed, I think, was actually the page with the Canyon of the Crescent Moon like pages on it. So like it was.
Well, he can't read English, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it was kind of a funny thing that happened in that.
You skipped another funny thing that happened on their. I think it's before whenever they're getting on the blimp.
Oh no, it happens right. Yeah. The blimp happens right after they bump into Hitler.
Yeah, so they're getting on the blimp, and the Nazi guys are like searching out Indy and Henry because they're like, you have our shit, we want it back. And then he like beats the hell out of him and throws him off the blimp, and he's like, no ticket. So all the German
people are like digging around, like show their tickets.
Yeah,
that's a great scene.
Yeah. Oh, and the guy who runs up to the blimp with Colonel Vogel, who's the one who he punches out the window, is Pat Roach.
Yeah.
So like he didn't have like a big like, because Colonel Vogel's kind of the Pat Roach character in this.
Mm-hmm.
But he had his little cameo where he ran alongside him. He was like the attendee or something he's like waving them down to like stop from taking off.
Yeah, so he isn't like gruesomely killed in this movie.
Yeah,
unlike the previous two.
He leaves unscathed.
Yeah.
And then we were followed with an action sequence of them because the blimp is turning around because they realize that they've been radioed that like Indiana Jones and his father are probably on the blimp to bring them back to Germany. So they go down underneath like the luggage thing, and there's a biplane connected to it that Indy says that they're gonna fly off of it and take off. And then there are two fighter planes that start chasing them down. And I forget like where they're at. They're like in the Austrian countryside or something like that. And they crash the plane. Well, not crash. He kind of lands it. It crashes at the end. But...
Yeah, it's Henry's fault.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Henry. That's one of my favorite things. Is he's manning the machine gun on the tail of the plane, and he's like shooting and not paying attention to where he's shooting, and he shoots out like the back taileron of the like plane, and he's like, and Indy like notices like it's like jittery, and he's like, Dad, he's like, are we hit? And he goes, son, I'm sorry. They got us. He's like, you think he's going to mess up to it? Like, they got us. Yeah. So they bring the plane down and they steal a car and they're driving it. Like, this is one of the more interesting sequences of them driving into the tunnel, and the pilot just decides, you know what?
I'm going in.
And just like goes.
I'm going in.
Yeah, like he just flies it right into the tunnel. Wings come off and everything, and he just like is passing them.
Yeah,
and then he explodes out the other side. Then the other plane drops a bomb on them, and the car gets wrecked. So they're going down, like running down towards this beach area, and Indy goes like the plane's turning around to come back, and Indy like takes his pistol out, and he doesn't have any rounds left in it. So, like, Henry gets the idea to take his umbrella and scare the seagulls to fly up off the beach, and it ends up flying into the plane, like, busts through the windshield, stops the prop, and it just smashes into, like, the hillside. So, like, Henry was the hero in that moment. And then I think that's when Indiana Jones realizes, like, his dad and him aren't that different after all. Yeah, and they start to, like, have this more of, like, a bonding experience with one another. Which, I mean, that's kind of like what the whole movie is just them like bonding more and like becoming more like father and son. Yeah,
this is one of the it's like kind of the only Indiana Jones movie that's really like about something else with the backdrop of this huge adventure to find the Holy Grail. Because this is really about Indy and Henry like reconciling their relationship.
Yeah.
And the other ones, like, they have like actual story elements to them, but this one is like, that's what this is about.
Yeah.
Where the other ones are like, here's an adventure.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So
So the Nazis and Donovan like bribed this king to give them like all these amenities to go into, I think it's in Jordan,
Yeah.
is where they go to find this canyon of the crescent moon, to find the temple where the Grail is. So he gives them like all this stuff, tanks, horses, all this stuff. And Indy and his father and Sala are trailing them. Oh, and Brody too.
Brody's there, too.
Well, Brody's with the Nazis. They
Yeah.
capture Brody. Because I forget why they sent Brody to Iskenderun.
I don't remember.
Was he going to find Sala? I think he was going to find Sala, but I don't know if they were... Oh, he gave Brody the pages
Yeah.
for the Canyon of the Crescent Moon. So he had them, and then the Nazis knew, so that they scooped up Brody, so they had the missing pages, which honestly, those are the 2 pages that they needed,
Yeah, they needed
in order to get there. So there's like a big fight that ensues, and there's a big battle on the tank between
That's a
Indy
great
and the
scene,
Colonel.
too.
Yeah,
Like
and
that whole sequence is great.
and there's a whole, like you said, Indy's not directly responsible for the villain's death,
Yeah.
and he's still not in this. Like, they're fighting on this tank, and they're beating the shit out of each other, and then Indy just rolls off the tank, and it goes over with the Colonel in it,
Yeah.
and then he dies, the tank explodes or whatever, and then they think Indy's dead.
Yeah, I think Indy dies too.
But he climbs
They're
up,
all saying their farewells at the top of the
yeah.
hill.
and then they're all looking down, and then like Indy like climbs up and like comes over and is like standing behind them, like examining it too.
Wasn't it the old man? He was still talking, and Indy's right beside him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think.
his dad says something about like, and he's just standing right there, and he like turns around and gives him a big hug and everything,
Yeah.
and then like Indy's like catching his breath, and he's like sitting there. He doesn't have his hat because it blows off right before the tank goes over, and he's like sitting there like on the ground, and his dad's like, "Come on!" He's like, "We gotta go take care of this," and he's like, "Oh my god!" Like sitting there, and then his hat just rolls into frame.
Yeah, and then we haven't talked about it up until this point, but the score for all these movies is great.
John
and just
Williams,
John,
and just like the
the
theme,
maestro.
like Indy's theme,
yeah.
like whenever he reaches down and picks up the hat, and it's like, oh, it's time the adventure begins.
It's a very iconic theme. It's like the Imperial March. If you hear it, like you know it.
Yeah,
I'd almost compare it to like the Force theme,
Yeah,
yeah,
because it's kind of the same concept. Like
yeah,
when he puts the hat or does something to start the adventure, the theme plays.
oh yeah.
yeah.
When they use the Force,
The Force
theme
theme
plays.
plays, yeah. Yeah, that's a good comparison.
There actually parts of the theme, like I guess John Williams wrote two different themes, and they ended up putting them right next to each other. So like it's the main theme, and then there's like there's like a secondary theme that he just stuck in there too. Like so they put them side by side, and he's like, it works. They're in the same key and everything, so they just let it go.
Yeah, fuck it.
So yeah, John Williams is a genius. So they find the Canyon of the Crescent Moon, they find the temple, and they go in, and they're
just in the random ass side of a mountain.
yeah. That's actually a temple that is in Jordan.
Yeah.
You can go visit that temple. I forget what it's called, but it's like at the very tip of Jordan. And I think it's the same temple that was used in Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen.
Yeah, probably.
So it's a very famous like architectural landmark. So they go in, and they find that Donovan has been basically sending people into their death because they don't know what to do because there's all these booby traps set before you can even enter in. But the Grail Diary says what to do, and only Indy and Henry have a basic understanding of what to do. And even then, Indy's like, I don't fucking know what the hell's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So they find out that like there are these blades that are spinning that once you enter in a certain part of this, it'll just like lop your head clean off. No blood. Just strange.
Yeah, no blood. Steven Spielberg learned of
Yeah, he was like, nah, no blood in this one. So, like, Indy goes through, gets out of that one, stops the blades, so everybody can move forward. But before this happens, Donovan has a gun on Indy, and Indy tells him, he's like, shooting me is not going to get you anywhere. And he says, yeah, you're right, and shoots his dad right in the stomach, like motivating him to go in and get the grail. So
mortally wounding him.
Yeah, so Indy is on a time crunch here to get in and figure out which grail, or find the Holy Grail. So he goes in, beats the first test. Second test, he goes to do it. And it's like the thing in the Goonies when they're like playing like the things and like the floor collapses underneath them. There's these tiles that spell out Jehovah, but you have to spell it out in like the Hebrew alphabet. So he goes to like step on J and falls like through, and he's like holding on. So he starts like spelling it out in the Hebrew and gets past it.
Yahweh.
Yeah.
Right.
So he gets past that and goes to the next one, which is the Leap of Faith, which it's a cavern it's a big ass chasm, and you can't see the bridge because it's like either they never really say what it is.
Yeah,
they
it's an optical illusion.
To look that way.
It's like almost implied that it's magical. Like
like it's cloaked by something, but you see the bottom of it.
Yeah, so
like we see the side perspective of it.
It might just be like
an optical,
like it is painted that way,
Yeah.
or that it's like the stone is just like so camouflaged in that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So Indy walks across that, and then before he gets fully across, he takes some sand and throws it out so everybody knows where to walk. So he enters into the Temple of the Grail, where there's this ancient, we can only assume hundreds of years old, Knight of the Templar that was tasked with finding the Grail, and he did, and so he's been guarding it ever since. And Indy comes in, and then Elsa and Donovan come in, and he tells them, you have to choose one of the Grails, and there's like 100 in this room.
Yeah.
And he says, you have to choose, but choose wisely, because the true Grail will bring you eternal life, and the false Grail will take it from you. So Donovan, being who Donovan is, this rich, pompous asshole, picks out like the most fancy, jewel-encrusted glass that he can find, drinks from it, convinced that it's that, and he just basically withers away and turns to dust in like 10
he turns
seconds.
into the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, and then he dies. So Indy is now tasked with finding the Grail, and he finds this really like beat up, like it's just a basic chalice.
Yeah, like a wooden chalice.
Takes it.
It would have been the everyday chalice of the times.
Yeah, it would have been the cup of a carpenter, like he says. So he takes it and drinks from it, and the knight tells him, he says, you have chosen wisely. And he tells him that you can't take the Grail with you. Like, you now have eternal life, but if it crosses that seal, that bond is broken. So he takes the Grail out with water to his dad, pours the water on his wound, and has him drink from it. So basically, at this point, Indy and his father are immortal. Well, they just won't die of old age, I guess. And then Elsa gets greedy, picks up the Grail, crosses the seal, like null and voiding that entire thing. And the whole temple starts to collapse. And she is so obsessed with the Grail that she tries to reach for it. And Indy tries to save her, but she's so encapsulated by her own greed, she falls to her death.
Yeah.
And Indy tries to get it.
It almost is the exact same thing.
Yeah, so he wants it.
Yeah, which is the great character development for Henry, because, like, obviously he's faced death at this point. He realizes, my son went through this thing to save me, and he, like, has Indy by, like he's holding him, and Indy's reaching for the Grail, and he's like, son, just let it go, which is, like, this is everything that he has worked for his entire life to get this Grail.
He's about to just sacrifice it.
He's like, just leave it.
Yeah. So when Indy realizes that, he climbs back up, and then they all leave, and they ride off into the sunset.
Literally.
And that's the end. That's the end.
Yeah.
Marcus, Sala, Indy, and his father just ride off into the sunset.
But they die. Or at least Henry dies.
Yeah.
So he doesn't actually have eternal life.
Yeah, which is something that I think and that I think that's something that you and I talked about, and that's where I came to the conclusion. I was like, oh right, he said if you cross the Great Seal, you're done.
Yeah.
Like that's it. It may have saved you right then and there, but you're done.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to be.
Wouldn't he have died immediately though?
No,
His wounds
it's
reopened.
just reopened.
Right, like that's
I don't know.
I think once you're already healed, like the healing power of the Grail will work,
okay.
but your eternal life from drinking from it is not gonna.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
I mean, that makes sense.
because I said that in the movie that follows this, I was like, why did his dad die? And then I was like, oh,
Well,
wait,
his dad died because Sean Connery didn't want to come back for the movie, obviously.
Fair.
But they just had to write him out.
But like when they said that, I was like, shouldn't he still be alive? Then I was like, no, wait. I was like, no, that doesn't happen. They had to. They drank from the Grail and it crossed the seal. So.
And now, on to the best movie of them all.
Well, hold on. Let's talk about Last Crusade a little bit. I want at least some joy in this before moving on to the next one.
I would say
This is my favorite.
yeah.
Last Crusade is my favorite.
Yeah.
And it took years because Last Crusade used to be my least favorite.
Really?
Yeah. But after like rewatching them as I get older, I'm like, Last Crusade's the best.
Like this is what I was saying earlier, like the further into the anthology, as we're calling it, further I got in, I was like, they just keep getting better. It like so when I was done with this one, I was like, I mean, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
Like I love the father son.
Yeah, that's
thing,
really the best
like-
part about the movie.
It was
That's
written
what's
very well.
Yeah.
that's what's like edging me on to liking this one a little bit more than Temple of Doom, just because like this one, like, not to say that the stories of the first two are bad by any means, but this is like a deep, meaty like story between like some nice character growth
Right.
and development. Like,
Yeah.
a nice character story between Indy and his dad.
Like
It's,
there's
like,
still
great.
that adventure that they're doing, but it's the primary thing is the reconnecting with the father.
Yeah.
I like
And repairing the relationship.
before I think it was before they found his dad. I like the clues that they were finding, like them unlocking the floor in the
Oh, yeah.
library,
Like
like
the sewer.
yeah, and then like them blowing it up or whatever. Like that was
Oh yeah.
the whole sequence. I liked all that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's
I
one
feel
of the
like
things that sticks out from
Oh,
the
yeah.
movie to me.
I feel like this movie in particular. I mean, all the Indiana Jones movies had a hand in it, but I feel like this movie in particular really paved the way for movies like National Treasure. Where
Yeah.
it was like them finding clues in like these just random ass places, like real life places. Like you didn't have to be in a temple; they were in a library, in
Right.
Italy, like finding these things, and like a castle somewhere. Like, oh, there's a fun line in this where they're going through the catacombs to find that knight's, like his tomb with the shield, so they can get the rest of the tablet
Right.
marked on that wax paper that they were using, and they're like going through, and he has the torch, and they're looking at all these paintings like that have been like they're not like intricate, but they're just like painted like relics on the walls. And Elsa says, she goes, "What's this one?" And he says, "Ark of the Covenant." And she goes, "Are you sure?" And he goes, "I'm pretty sure." Like, and that's she just walks away. Like,
I'm familiar.
yeah, well, I'm very familiar with the Ark of the
I
Covenant.
know what that looks like.
Yeah. This one, that just came to me, something about this. This one benefits from like referencing the previous movies, whereas the next one, where it's like referencing the previous movies, it's just kind of like super hammy, like pandery kind of. Like I don't know. We'll talk about
Yeah,
it when we
we'll,
get there.
yeah, we'll get to that one. I don't know. Is there anything else that we wanted to say? I'm just really trying to prolong Last Crusade before we get to the.
We really don't want to talk about this movie.
I mean, it's not.
This is
It is the worst.
this
It
is
the
like
worst.
Harrison Ford at his best. I
Oh
think.
yeah.
Like
Peak.
like,
yeah.
like he's great in all of them, but I think that this is like really like where he shines through
Yeah.
as Indy.
Yeah, because his character goes through a lot
Yeah.
in this movie. Like mentally, emotionally. Like it's nice to see his character evolve because he becomes. I mean, he was relatable to begin with, but he just becomes more relatable as a character as it goes.
And I think that in a nutshell is why the third one is my favorite.
Yeah.
Like it's so like what's the word? Like personable.
Yeah,
Like you
it's
can
relatable.
super
Yeah,
relatable.
the argument that they have when he comes in to save him and the Nazis come up because they know the room's been broken into. And they're like arguing about the book because he's like, I didn't want you to bring it back. I didn't want it to fall into their hands. And he's like, I came here to save you. And he goes, oh yeah? He goes, who's going to save you, Junior? And he goes, I told you. And he takes the gun and shoots all the Nazis and he turns and he goes, don't call me Junior. Like, that's just the greatest like thing.
Yeah.
And then his dad's just horrified. He's like, look what you did.
Yeah. Well, I suppose before we get to the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls, we can talk briefly about how River Phoenix was supposed to continue on like the story of Indiana Jones with the
Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
Which they had a bunch of different people play Indiana Jones in that.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously River died, so like.
No, I mean like they had different actors
Oh.
play Indiana Jones through the seasons.
Oh, I didn't know
Like
that.
I think there was like three seasons, I think. And Harrison Ford returned for an episode. Like older. Like he had a big beard and everything. He still had the same hat. Like, yeah.
But that wasn't received super well.
No. Especially what they did with old Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Like he had an eye patch and like shit. Like it was weird. It was like super weird. I'm like,
I didn't realize that it went for that long.
yeah. I don't plan on watching them because like as much as I like the character, I feel like I would just rather stick to the movies.
Right.
Like it's not like Star Wars where it's like Clone Wars really builds on the lore
Yeah.
and like Rebels. The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles are just like a serial of like all the other famous historical figures he's encountered or whatever. So it's just kind of like that. Oh, who does he meet this week? Then it's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
oh, he met Lennon. Like that actually happens. I'm not even joking about that. But like, it's just like shit like that, and I'm like, no, I don't really care about
So
that.
they're like, let's take Indiana Jones. Let's make it like Scooby Doo.
pretty much, yeah.
But now, the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls. It takes place in the 70s, right?
1957.
57?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously it takes place like a number of years, like close to 20 years after everything that happened.
World War II has been fought and won.
Yeah, we're in like
Where Indy fought.
we're in like Cold War territory now. He's still a professor at college, but the movie starts with them heading to Area 51.
Yes.
And so Indy is like infiltrating Area 51.
Yeah, they get captured
Yeah.
by the Soviets.
Yeah, yeah.
Disguised as U.S. Army people.
Yeah.
Who go to like it's a secret bunker area and they kill all the people at the gate.
Yeah.
And go in.
And so they end up in Area 51. They're like being chased down by Soviets, and he escapes. And the classic scene of the movie where he like ends up in a nuclear test facility. It's like a town where they would like see.
It's
like,
literally
Nuketown.
Nuketown.
Yeah. It literally is Nuketown.
And a siren goes off. They're like, oh, they're about to test a nuclear warhead dropped here. So Indiana gets the bright idea to hop in a lead-lined refrigerator. Nuclear warhead goes off, and he gets sent flying like miles.
Hundreds.
Which
Hundreds of miles,
every
yeah.
one of his bones should be.
Yeah, he
like,
should be
pulverized.
absolutely destroyed. Anyway,
Like never
But he
mind.
just- he
Never
rolls
mind. Yeah. Never mind the fact that like nuke at ground zero.
yeah,
Nuke at Ground Zero, like he would have just been cooked inside that
that's
elevator.
true. Yeah, it would have been extremely hot. He would have just
Yeah, the heat itself. Yeah.
Because like they show you on the outside, like as soon as it detonates, there's the flash, and then all the mannequins just ignite on
Yeah.
fire. I'm like, he should just be like cooked
Yeah.
instantly.
yeah, a rotisserie chicken. But yeah, so he survives that. He gets grilled by the U.S. military, like government government agencies. They're like, hey, what the fuck?
Why are you working with the Soviets?
Yeah.
And he's like, they literally captured. Which, by the way, we can't gloss over the fact that the Area 51 is where the warehouse
is the warehouse
where
that,
they stored the Ark of the Covenant.
Covenant.
Because they're looking for an alien.
Yeah.
They're hinting it was Roswell.
Yeah.
That there was an alien carcass found.
Yeah, yeah. So the driving force of the film is the hunt for the fabled crystal skull, which is an alien skull
that might actually be the size of the one that they cut out.
An elongated skull.
Yeah, an alien skull that you can like peer into to like gain
psychic abilities.
Some kind of thing to like enhance. It's
almost like a third eye.
Yeah, it's like it's for the war effort, obviously. Like because we're in like
the Soviets want to peer across the world, like which is kind of funny because Stranger Things was kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah,
because they literally wanted to know what their enemies were doing, and the skull would give them that ability.
Yeah,
to like see what the other side is planning.
So we find out that another American professor and archaeologist was like looking into this. And he has gone mad from peering into the skull, and he's also captured by the Soviet forces because they like want to use him to like get to this like.
Because he speaks in riddles and
he
knows the path to the skull, or where they need to take the skull.
Yeah, to like gain its power or whatever. And
they have to return the skull.
He has the knowledge, but he's mad.
Yeah. So he has to speak in riddles in order for them to figure it out. But Indiana Jones is like one of the only people who like knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, right. And they're like colleagues, and so they know each other.
It's kind of a mess when you think about it, because it's like, oh, he knows John Hurt, but John Hurt also knows Marion, so they drug Marion in here.
Yeah,
and then Mutt goes to find Indy. Like it just becomes kind of like it's not convoluted, but it's a bit of a mess.
This is trying to do what The Last Crusade did, where it tried to have like a familial story with the backdrop of this like crazy alien bullshit, but it was just like the story made no sense because it was like Mutt doesn't know that Indy's his father, but he goes and like seeks him out because Marion is his mother, and they were like. He knew that they had a close relationship at one point, so he's like, hey, my mom's missing, you need to help me find her, and this is why. So they go to like find her because of John Hurt being like fucking knocked out by the skull, and they're like traveling through the jungle, and they're trying. It's like a fighting the Soviets. It's kind of like a cat and mouse type of deal where they're like kind of working alongside the Soviets to get to the like place. I don't know why they're motivated to go there, just because. But
the Soviets or Indy?
Indy. It's kind of like, we're fucking here, might as well figure it out.
I think that like the driving force there is John Hurt's character.
Yeah,
because
they want to like fix him.
Yeah, he's the one who wants to return the skull. So they think, well, if we take the skull to where it needs to go, maybe it'll cure him or something like that.
So that's their motivation, and then the Soviets are. It's like a cat and mouse. They're like kind of going with them, helping them along the way, but also like trying to get there before them. And they eventually make it to this place. And Indy's like one former friend double crosser thing, which is also like the most convoluted bullshit in the entire movie. Because he's working with him at the beginning of the movie, and then he's like working with the Soviets. He's like, I double crossed you. And then he's like, oh, I'm secretly double crossing them. I'm working with you.
It's a double cross.
And then at the end, he's like, I'm double crossing you.
Yeah, clearly his only motivation is like the
money,
gold and riches, and he's like,
I just want to be on the team that wins.
I want to be on the team that gets me. That gets me all the money. So I don't know.
Like all throughout the movie, Mac is just weighing his options. Like, well, if we go to the place that's built out of solid gold, I could probably get money there. And he's like, the Soviets are gonna pay me. So like he's like weighing his options the whole time, and he's like, they might get to the solid gold city. I'm gonna go with that.
Like that type of character can be fun if it's like not taken seriously. If it's like that character's a joke, but. The entire movie, you're like, you have no idea where this dude's allegiances lie,
right?
And it's fucking annoying, and it's made a joke because it's taken so seriously. It's like, oh, this dude's like, oh, a secret double cross, triple cross, quadruple cross. It's like, He's the lamest fucking shit ever.
Yeah, it's fine the first little bit.
You're
of
like,
it,
oh
but-
yeah, that's a cute twist,
Yeah.
whatever, and then it just keeps happening.
And really, Mac is not integral to the story.
Not really.
whatsoever.
I mean, he helps the Soviets get to there just
Yeah.
by like being able to follow Indy and all them. But yeah, other than that, he's kind of just there to be a foil.
Like when he goes back with Indiana and the gang, like he's like planting seeds for, like he's still double. I don't know. It's a mess.
He's still double like, and I guess he's doing that just to like cover his own ass because
Right.
he's like, well, if we get here and this is a bust, at least they'll show up and pay me still.
And I can be like, oh, I got you here.
Yeah. So I mean, Mac is fueled by greed and money.
Right.
So
Right.
he sells out his own friends to
Yeah.
make money.
And I mean, we can talk about it, but it's been belabored to death since the movie came out. This is an exception where the first three films are like religious artifacts to a degree, and this one is like completely not in any way related to religion.
It depends on the Mayans. It was a very
Well,
religious.
sure,
Sure.
but even it's like aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which I mean, it's Steven Spielberg.
yeah,
You knew it was gonna happen eventually. Like,
yeah.
we all should have known that there was eventually gonna be an Indiana Jones.
So
movie.
this shouldn't be any shocker to me. I love the alien part of it.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I don't mind it.
I think they're cool. They're designed very.
It's weak.
Unique.
I don't mind it though.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish it were something else, but I don't.
It doesn't like. It was cool. Like when it first came out, like you can even ask Shawn. Like I loved this movie when it first came out. It's definitely the weakest.
Like I would not say that I.
I mean, obviously, I like the Crystal Skulls. Like I read a whole book on them when this came out. It's interesting. The skulls are very, like, they're very interesting because like
They're
they're
the size of like 2 footballs.
well, not those ones,
Yeah.
the real ones, the
Yeah.
ones that like because they're cut in like a in an otherworldly way. Like if you tried to machine one of those, it would shatter.
Yeah.
So it's weird, like how they were made,
Mhm.
which is the mystery behind them. So I mean, like it's cool, but it definitely doesn't have the driving force that the other ones have. I think.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I like a lot of shitty movies.
I mean,
I thoroughly enjoyed this one.
This is a
there's
shitty
there's
movie.
a lot of stuff that I like in this. I like the well, there was a bit of the type of fight that he has with the big guy. They brought that.
Russian guy.
They fight the big Russian guy, and he gets eaten by those humongous man-eating ants. I
Yeah.
like that part. But even though it's really fucking dumb, them being in the what you call it, the Jeep, and it like going, it going over the waterfall. I like that bit, and even like the jungle, like cutter thing, like
Yeah, the jungle car thing was really cool.
it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
The
And he shoots the RPG at it,
Yeah.
and the blade comes flying back like through all their vehicles.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it. I didn't feel the need to revisit it, but yes, yeah, I don't know. The action is good. I don't know. I don't hate it the way that everybody hates it. Like, I think it's a fine movie.
Even though I had never seen any of them, like I have always heard about how bad the fourth one is.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
And even then, it's not that bad either.
Like, there are certainly parts of it that are not good. But
yeah, it's
you know,
serviceable.
I liked it, but I can also recognize why people don't hold it to the original trilogies.
So, like, and the thing of it, if the movie felt like disconjointed from everything else, then yeah, I probably wouldn't like it.
Mm.
I wouldn't like it as much as I do. But like, it's still cohesive to everything else, and it's still from
despite being removed from the rest of it by like 30 years, 20 to 30 years.
Yeah.
Is this the first of what we are living now, where we revisit old,
Like
movies?
kind of like a sequel reboot type of deal.
Yeah, like was this like one of the first ones?
I mean the prequels, obviously.
Right. I mean, in where like the original cast comes back.
Like a sequel reboot. type
Right.
of thing.
Yeah. Because like we got like
It-
the new trilogy for Star Wars, and we got
It's
like
close.
the Terminator cast coming back.
All right.
Like
I
all
would
those
say
kinds
that
of
probably Terminator was the first to do that. Well, because Terminator 3 was 12 years after Terminator 2.
Yeah, I feel
So
like
they
that's,
waited quite a while to reboot.
I mean, that's
that.
a big gap, but like
This
I guess I'm mostly meaning the ones where it's like 30 years, 20, 30 years.
like kind of like Force Awakens.
Yeah, Force Awakens, like those kinds of things.
It could be. It very well could be because I don't think that anybody was really doing anything like that at that time. No one ever thought about it. This was kind of like that first where people went, "Hey, we can dig up this geezer and put him back in a movie."
right.
Like, and Harrison doesn't even look like that old. Like I remember
No.
like thinking that he was older, and now you see him now compared to what he was in this movie, and it's like, oh wow, he still looks pretty young.
It's been 14 years after that has been released, so like, and they're coming out with another one.
I was gonna say
Like-
5's coming out,
And he's 79.
Yeah, so like,
and they've been shooting that for like what 4 years.
They were shooting it like before the pandemic. That's
Yeah.
what slowed it down.
Yeah. yeah, so
and he also got injured.
yeah,
Yes.
he did get him.
Yeah.
Because he's an old
Broke his
fucking man.
shoulder or something like that. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was something like that.
I think that we had enough of talking about Kingdom Hearts.
Well, no,
We
we,
could-
we didn't even get to the epic conclusion where they
Oh,
take
yeah.
the skull and put it on, like, there's 13 alien crystal
And
skeletons.
it's missing the one.
and it's
yeah.
missing its head, so they, like, put it on there, and then they all, like, come
Combined.
together
Yeah, they combine
into
an
one
actual
alien, and then it burns Kate Blanchett's eyes out of her head.
No, she just gets all the knowledge that she wants.
Yeah, because she just wanted
And
knowledge.
she can't hold all
Yeah,
the knowledge.
Yeah,
So,
'cause
like,
it's like
it literally gives her what she wants, and then it just, like...
All right, so my connection, why I probably like this so much, it just kind of dawned on me. It's a very Doctor Who kind
see
of
that,
story,
yeah.
and it doesn't help that John Hurt's in it because he played
Yeah,
Doctor Who.
yeah. That's true. Yeah. And then the aliens leaving, well, they're not aliens, they're interdimensional beings,
Yeah,
as John Hurt
right.
puts it. And then they just like light speed out of there, and it collapses like
And then
the
that
lake
ravine fills
around
with
it.
all the water.
Yeah, and it just hides everything that was ever there.
This is the first instance where like the CG shit is kind of like CG was okay back 15 years ago, but it's like, oh, Indiana Jones isn't known for its CG, and then you have a giant UFO
Right.
taking off, and you're like, oh, that looks kind of like shit.
Like, and there were a lot of sets built for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but at the same time, it's like, oh, there's so much more CG. Like, you could tell George Lucas was involved
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he was like, oh, put him on a blue screen and then we'll just shoot it like that.
At least he didn't go back somehow.
We don't know yet. The 5K or the 4K version just got re-released. So
Good.
maybe there's like an extra Nazi like on the
I hope it-
field in
I hope
Raiders
it-
of the Lost Ark.
I hope a Nazi says McClunky.
Wow, that'd just be a Kathleen Kennedy decision.
Now, what do we?
Wasn't that George Lucas's like last thing he did before they sold it?
It was a Disney thing.
Oh yeah, it was the Disney thing.
I thought
It was like one of the first things
I
on
thought
Disney
I-
Plus that people were like, "What the fuck is that?"
I thought it was reported though that like it was the last thing he changed, but like it was never released under him.
I don't know.
Might have been.
I thought that's what I read.
You could be right, and Disney just released that version.
That's what I'm saying. Like it was supposed to be like the next 4K like before they bought it.
Which I mean, it's kind of funny
It
to
doesn't really
think
matter,
Yeah.
but-
to think about it now. But like, you look back on these movies, and not to like go into any sort of tangent or anything, but like Kathleen Kennedy was involved.
I mean, yeah,
I've
in
been
all
seeing
of
her
it.
name freaking everywhere.
In all of this.
like
She was Star Wars, Indiana Jones, anything
Jurassic
Lucasfilm.
Park.
Yeah, anything Lucasfilm and Spielberg like touched, she was involved.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
Her and Frank
Well,
Martin.
she was like
Yeah.
George Lucas's right hand woman.
Pretty much,
basically.
yeah.
despite what you might think of what she's done in recent years, she is a very skilled
Yeah,
producer and
Yeah, she
like,
helped
you know,
build these
yeah.
epic franchise. And I think it might just be something that like you still want to be that person, but trying to evolve in today's market. Like you're trying to do stuff that you did back in the day, and it's just not working.
Right.
I mean, she's like almost solely responsible for the computer generated images in Jurassic Park. Like she was like the one that saw like them working on the CGI instead of the stop motion shit. She's like, oh, we're gonna do that.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
like,
so-
this is what we're doing.
And then Phil Tippett threw a brick through a window somewhere. He was like, "Are you kidding?"
But yeah, like she is just like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. She is responsible for revolutionizing film industry. So,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
give her
like,
the credit.
You look back at the
yeah.
last like 40 years of film. Like, think of the biggest franchises that changed the face of cinema.
Yeah.
Like, it's these ones. Guess who was involved? Her.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not here to simp for Kathleen Kennedy, but
Wow.
she did have a hand in really changing the game.
But like at some point, you got to recognize what she has done. You
Yeah.
know.
Real.
And I was
real.
I was ignorant to that. Like I was kind of on board with the whole like let's hate Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
I mean, like
But,
you can hate her for some decisions she's made.
Right. Right.
For the decisions, you can't hate her because
Yeah.
without her, we wouldn't have these things.
Yeah.
Where do we think that the 5th movie is going to go?
Oh,
'Cause,
God.
like
Swear to
I
God.
honestly have no clue where we can go from here.
Like
So-
is Shia LaBeouf out?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't think
He's like in
involved at all.
rehab.
Well, I know he himself is, but like, is his son just not going to be mentioned?
So like if we're like going by like if this is like timeline wise going to keep up with the length of time that has passed, like let's say it's 50 or 10 years, 11 years, so it's going to be like 60s, almost 70s, right? So what is it going to be, like Vietnam era stuff, like Indy?
Well, yeah, because
I'm-
it can't
I'm
be
cur-
now.
Yeah,
like,
Indy will be long dead by the
Right.
time that it's like now. So like I'm just curious, like are they? Do you think they're gonna revert back to like the religious artifact type of thing, or are they just gonna like? I don't know. I'm
actually
I literally have zero idea what it could be. So
I'm very
I'm
curious.
interested in that regard, but also I think it's gonna be dog shit because Harrison Ford is an 80-year-old man.
Do you think it's just gonna be like Harrison Ford walks on the screen, everybody cheers, and like he just goes, and like they're at like a waterfall or something, and he just like looks at the camera and just walks and just like nose dives off, and then it's like Indiana Jones died, and then that was like that's it. Roll
Yeah,
credits.
It's a 4-minute long movie.
He's like, although I will say this, Harrison has also gone on record as saying that he loves playing Indiana Jones. Now he also said this is gonna be his last movie.
Yeah. Do you think they're gonna kill Indy?
I don't know if they'll kill him. I feel like he would want them to.
Yeah, I mean that's the only reason
he
he
wanted-
came back for Star Wars is because, and they didn't even keep him dead. But you know,
Well, they did.
well, he was dead. That was Kylo Ren's.
I feel yeah.
psyche.
The whole point of it being like Harrison Ford's like, I'm not doing Star Wars anymore. Kill me off. And then they're like, Harrison, please. Well, he's like, oh,
I
how
got
much
these 2
money?
minutes.
How much money do you have? give me $5 million for a day on set, and I'll consider it.
I'll do it.
But yeah, so
Harrison, can we put you in the makeup chair? No.
absolutely not.
Can you at least shave? No.
All right, wear this.
You
shitty
look
wig.
like shit. Whatever. I don't even want to be here.
Well,
I think it's that
I
time.
think it's time to rate the movies.
Yeah.
Are we?
Do we want to go like individually rate each one around, or do we want to give our ratings for each one and proceed
No, I think we should go movie by movie
roundabout?
round table.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit Raiders with an 8.
I'm also going 8.
It established a lot. Changed the game of the adventure movie. Gave us a lot of really iconic scenes. Great score, great action, great visual effects. Like ILM was at the pinnacle of their game at this point. I mean, it was a groundbreaking movie.
Mhm.
They broke new ground. So I'm gonna hit it with an 8.
I'd probably go just because I don't think I have the same appreciation because I've only seen it once. I'm gonna go 7. It's not that much of a difference,
Yeah.
but you know, like it might be my least favorite.
Even with the
Yeah, like I
Universal
legit
Falls?
like the fourth movie. I don't know why I keep pointing at that one because that's not it. But
What is
Which
it? That one's Raiders.
yeah, it's Raiders. But yeah, I mean, we'll get to.
I was looking to see if they're in any type of
They are
order.
in order. This
They
one.
are in
with,
order.
with the special features.
Well,
I've been pointing at that one, even though I know it's not. Anyway, but you know,
I mean, my copy of it is a steelbook, so it would have looked weird.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, I forget what I even said now. 7.
well, I'm going to say 8.5 for the Temple of Doom because I think it improves on it. It is campy and violent, and I like that a lot. And everything else from the first movie, it just improves upon it that
Yeah.
way. So
I will second Shawn's 8.5 and everything that he said.
Well, I'm gonna jump up to an 8 for the second.
okay.
with nothing more to add to it, really.
I'm gonna give Last Crusade a 9. It's not a perfect movie, but it is very good. Like I said, it has become my favorite out of all 4 of them. And it gets better with every rewatch. There's a lot of great action set pieces. There's the way it was directed was different than the other 2. Like there was something Steven Spielberg was trying to do something different, and it worked. Yeah, it's great. Great score, great acting, great characters. Nothing feels, and I guess that's something in these movies too. Like we talk about sequels nowadays, where it's like, they turn this into such a mess, and we have all these characters that are just stupid and don't matter. But in these movies, there really isn't really, especially in the trilogy, I should say, there isn't anything that you could really do away with or go, that's fucking stupid.
Everybody has a purpose.
Yeah, just cut that out. There's no reason to do anything like that. They're solid movies the entire way through.
Well, I would say 8.75, but that sounds pretentious of me, so I'm just going to say 8.5. But know that it's a high 8.5. It could be a 9. Solely because of the story elements. It improves upon the first 2, based solely on the driving force is the character work between Indy and his father. So,
and like I said, 3 is my favorite out of all 4. So I was actually thinking 8.5 as well. Well, you were thinking, yeah, but 8.5 for me.
High 8.5.
Yeah.
No, mine's just a normal ass.
And then
8.5.
6 out of 10 for that shit pile.
I'm gonna give it a 7, just because I feel like 7 is just kind of I don't hate this movie. I like it. It's definitely the weaker one out of all of them. Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with a 7. I mean, we've said our gripes about it pretty much, so that's.
I was probably still really high from the third one, but yeah, I'm gonna go 7.5. It's just maybe I was just more invested at that point.
You're entitled to that opinion.
Higher than
I am-
Raiders.
I am-
I can't believe it.
I'm sure, if I ever revisited that, these could all change. But I just got to be honest. I had fun with it.
All right.
No, the fourth one is fun.
We finally sat you down and made you watch all this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Oh, I'm happy. With that pick.
You're happy that you experienced.
That's one thing that is great about the show is sometimes you just want to watch something, but you're like, I don't really want to sit down and watch it right now. I don't have the time or whatever. But in this instances, it's you have to sit down and watch these movies.
Yeah, I would.
We can talk about it. So
I mean, clearly, there was even a time, way before a podcast was ever a thing for me, but I tried to sit down and watch the first one, and I just found it boring. I literally turned it off. But once I got past that point, I guess I don't know what was so boring about it back then. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention that good. I don't know, but yeah, I'm glad this was picked.
All right.
I'm glad we did the fourth one too. Damn it.
Yeah. Well, everybody knew we were. There was no way we weren't going to be able to get away with that.
Well, there you have it. We have our Indiana Jones Anthology collection in the books. I hope you enjoyed listening. We have another recommendation coming to you for next time from me. Also, sorry about the wait, guys. It was a lot of shit to get through, okay? It's been a while since we've updated or released a video, but we had to get through a lot of shit.
Yeah, cut us a break.
But because Aaron gave us such a time sink, I'm going to give us a time sink too, and he's going to not be happy with me. But my recommendation for next time is James Cameron's Avatar. Damn it. So if you don't want to be spoiled for James Cameron's Avatar, make sure to watch it before next time. Obviously, this is coming out much before the new movie comes out in December.
Or it might come out in December. We don't know at this point.
Yeah, you never know at this point. Our upload schedule's been a little fluctuating. But
we might just coincide it with the release and do it back to back.
Make sure to watch it before next time. I hope you guys enjoyed watching our Indiana Jones Spectacular. We sure enjoyed talking about it. And make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Share us and all that garbage. And we'll see you in the next one.
All right, I gotta go return the skull.